Chapter 55. Thus saith the Lord. Parker, Wright, and Skinner were transported back to their car at the Johnson Ridge Observatory. Waiting for them at the observatory was a Skamania County sheriff. Parker informed him that it was an FBI case, and he would appreciate it if they could transport Skinner to their jail until he could be moved. Parker's friendly demeanor seemed to dampen any territorial ardor, and he said that they would be happy to help. Parker texted Captain Johnson with the news. Caught spooky. You won't guess who. Meet tomorrow morning between 9:30-10. Johnson texted back. Who? Parker's response, it's a surprise. Gonson texted, screw. Parker's response, hell no, I won't even let you kiss me. Detective Wright was taken to Agent Simpson, who had been taken in an ambulance to the Skyline Hospital 20 miles away. Parker stayed with Skinner. He was not going to let him out of his sight. Skinner was placed near the window in the back seat of the sheriff's car. With his hands now cuffed behind his back, he struggled to the center of the seat. Parker insisted on staying with Skinner, and the sheriff consented. Parker slid into the passenger seat. He looked over his shoulder through the grill to check his cage passenger. He was met with a gaze that both disturbed and perplexed him. Behind those eyes, he saw a gleeful evilness. Parker shook away the feeling, turned to the sheriff, rolled his eyes, and said, This fucking guy's crazy. I've read about that guy. He's one sick dude. You don't know the half of it. The sheriff looked back at Skinner. Oh, he's crazy, all right. He's got that I'm going to enjoy killing you smile. Skinner's smile broadened. I'm merely doing the work of the Lord. At the same instant, the sheriff and Parker turned and looked at Skinner. Then they looked at each other. Skinner continued to smile. The sheriff said, I think the Lord needs to do a more diligent background check. Parker added, fucking crazy. Lord of the Flies crazy. The sheriff put the car in gear and pulled away. 2 Samuel 12:31. Skinner said and paused. What? Parker asked as he looked back at Skinner. With the passion of an evangelical tent preacher giving a sermon, Skinner began. And he brought forth the people that were therein, and put them under saws, and under harrows of iron, and under the axes of iron, and made them pass through the brick kiln. And thus did he unto all the cities of the children of Ammon. So David and all the people returned unto Jerusalem. Isaiah 13:15-16. Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. Numbers 25:3-4. And Israel joined himself unto Baalpeor. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, Take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. Exodus 12:29-30. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. 1 Samuel 6:19. And he smote the men of Bethshemesh, because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. Even he smote of the people 50,060 men. And the people lamented, because the Lord had smitten many of the people with a great slaughter. 1 Samuel 15:2-3. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way, when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Then Skinner fell silent. This guy is complete Looney Tunes, the sheriff said. Biblical crazy, Parker said. Chapter 56. Home again, jiggity jig. Parker phoned Wright and asked about Agent Simpson. He was told that she was going to be fine, but they were keeping her overnight for observation. Parker was relieved and told him that worked out perfectly because they would be staying overnight in Stevenson. They would transport Skinner back to Seattle in the morning. Then Parker asked Wright to pick him up at the Skamania County Sheriff's Office in Stevenson as soon as he felt comfortable leaving Agent Simpson. Wright said that he was ready to go. Wright picked up Parker. Noting the state of their clothes, they stopped at a thrift store in Stevenson, purchased clean used clothes, and then checked into the roadway and on 2nd Street. They took separate rooms and immediately took showers. Wright and Parker picked up Agent Simpson at Skyline Hospital at 6 a.m. She had only a slight headache. She had passed all the neurological tests, and the MRI and X-rays were negative. She had a rather substantial chunk of hair missing, but the cut only required 5 stitches to close it. Wright drove the 3 to the Skamania County Sheriff's Station and picked up Skinner, who was wearing a lost and found blue hooded sweatshirt over a light orange jumpsuit. Wright drove, Simpson sat in the front passenger seat, and Parker sat next to Skinner. During the long trip back to Seattle, Parker turned slightly and kept an eye on Skinner. Not once did Skinner look at Wright, Simpson, or the passing scenery. Each time Parker looked directly at Skinner, his eyes were fixed, glazed dead. Skinner repeated the biblical passages that he had recited the day before. Each time Skinner started a new verse, those dead eyes seemed to get blacker, and his voice became deeper, harsher with the texture of coarse gravel. When Skinner finally stopped, he closed his eyes and smiled contentedly. Wright turned right into the station's underground garage around 9:30 a.m. The rain had run down the ramp and puddled at the bottom. He stopped. The tires squealed. He checked to the left for a space near the elevator. He turned right. The tires screeched through the turn. 2 more screeching turns to the left, and 30 feet more brought them to the elevator. Wright pulled close, stopped, and waited for Simpson to get out and ride the elevator up while they prepared Skinner. Parker figured that since she had a headache, she should get into the station and sit down as quickly as possible. After the elevator door closed, Wright took Skinner out of the back seat of the driver's side of the car. Parker got out and escorted Skinner to the elevator while Wright parked out of sight 2 rows over between 2 police vans. Holding Skinner by his bicep, Parker waited for Wright to get to the elevator. As Wright approached, he said, "Do you see the way L.A. is looking at you? I think he's in love. Either that, or he's mapping you for his next surgery. The guy's seriously creepy crazy. He's way beyond that, but he's done now," Parker said as he glared at Skinner. Skinner tilted his head to the side. The work of God is never done. This is just the beginning. The ding of the elevator chime brought an end to Parker's thoughts. "Just get in the fucking elevator, Elaine, no. I'm not going to call you that anymore. Get in the fucking elevator, Dr. Dementia." Parker, Wright, and Skinner entered the elevator. Wright reached for the button for the lock-up floor. Parker grabbed his wrist. "Hold on. I have a better idea. We need to make a short stop before we stick this messenger of God," Skinner said smugly. The expression on Parker was pure revulsion. "I want spooky," Skinner said. "I want spooky now," he said louder. "Give me my face," he screamed several times. "I think his record's stuck," Wright said. "Press the button for homicide," Parker said. "Give me my face," he screamed again. "Shut up, and I'll give it to you. Are we going to see the guys, Agent Parker?" Skinner asked gleefully. "I'd really like to see them. They need to know that I delivered the message of God for them, too." "Yes, I think that they should know it was you," Parker said. Parker reached into the evidence bag, pulled out the mask, and put it over Skinner's head. Wright commented, "Believe it or not, that doesn't seem as creepy." "You're right." When they got off at homicide, the bullpen was vacant. Except for Captain Johnson and Lindy, who were meeting, everyone had gathered in the briefing room for the morning update. As they walked toward the briefing room, Parker pulled the hood over Skinner's head, largely obscuring the mask. Skinner seemed to enjoy being spooky again. With Parker's hand holding Skinner's elbow, Parker guided him into the briefing room. As they approached the room, silence began to grow. When Parker pulled Skinner into the room and stood with him at the front, the room fell silent. Parker reached behind Skinner's head and yanked the hood back. There was a collective gasp, and then a cacophony of expletives accompanying the name Spooky. Parker quieted the room. "I want you to know that Agent Simpson and Detective Wright were instrumental in capturing this man, and a good man gave his life in the process. Remember this name, Edwin Maberly a volcanologist from Mount St. Helens. Without him, we would not have caught this man. Spooky made him one of his victims. It took nearly half a minute to quiet the group. "I'd like you to meet Spooky," Parker said. There was more muttering. From the side of the room, an officer stood and said, "Way to go, Parker." He applauded. The rest of the room began to stand and applaud. Parker moved around in front of Spooky, blocking the view of the group. He put his hand under the neck of the mask, and while he moved to the side, he lifted the mask away. A round of expletive-riddled expressions of disbelief filled the room. Chapter 57. The Unveiling. Skinner gazed out at the room of people that he once thought of as friends, or at least as friendly acquaintances. He smiled. He knew that he was superior to all of them, even to the man who had brought him in. He had worn the mask with pride when he committed the murders, and he wore it in pride even now. Being unmasked was not in the least humiliating. It was like having the curtain go up so that he could take a bow after a critically acclaimed play had ended. He was pleased. He had fooled them all. He could not stop smiling. In his mind, they were applauding. Detective Martin froze in the doorway. "Oh my God!" burst out before she could clamp down her dreaded surprise. No shouted in her head just before her legs began to buckle. She caught her balance against the door jamb. Parker rushed the short distance to her and held her up until she could support herself. Once steady, she pushed him away. Parker stumbled slightly and fixed on Detective Martin's eyes. He saw only fear. "Are you okay?" Parker asked. She broke her eyes away from Parker and locked them onto Skinner. "It can't be." "Well, it is. Spooky is really Skinner," Parker announced to Lindy. "Or Skinner is really spooky," Wright added. Parker turned to Wright. "Good point, I guess." He turned back to Lindy. "There's no reason to be afraid. We've got him, and it's over." "Yes, of course. I was just so surprised. I didn't think we were close to finding him. We got lucky. But it wasn't easy, and a good man gave his life helping us catch him." "Yes, of course. You mean Professor Maberly," Lindy said with added calmness. "That's right. Without him, Spooky would still be on the loose." "You're right." Lindy stepped into the room. "I'll take him down to booking." "That's all right." "Right, and I would like to have the pleasure." "Of course. I just thought you might want to talk to the task force. Fill them in on the details." "No hitty. I like to put him in the cage." "Good. Okay, I'll leave you to do that." Martin turned awkwardly and headed back to her office. Halfway there, she passed Captain Johnson. "So, what's all the commotion?" he asked. Without turning her head, Lindy said, "They caught Spooky." He was Skinner. Johnson stopped in his tracks. "What?" Martin said nothing more. She continued walking to her office and shut the door behind her as a baffled Johnson watched her until her door shut. Johnson turned around in time to see Parker with his hand firmly grasping Skinner's elbow. "What the hell is going on here?" "Skinner is the killer. He's Spooky, rather, another Spooky." Parker held up the skin mask. "Holy shit. Really? Skinner? In a million years, I would never have thought he could have done it. Hell, that means that he was writing a novel based on this insanity. I guess he knows the murders better than anyone." Skinner smiled broadly and nodded to Johnson. Johnson turned to Parker. "What the hell is he smiling about?" "Well, it seems as if he's really proud of what he has done. I believe that he thinks that it is a good thing. The work of the Lord. Old Testament justice. He thinks he's the messenger of God. What a sick son of a bitch." "That's what I said," Wright commented. Skinner smiled again. "I wonder if he'll still be smiling when they stick the needle in his arm and pump in the kill juice," added Wright. "I think we're going to find out," Johnson said. "Right, take that sick son of a bitch down to booking. Parker has a story he needs to tell me." Wright pulled on Skinner's arm. "Come on, Smiley. We need to get you behind bars. Then you and I are going to have a nice long talk, and you can tell me all about how the mind of a maniac works, or rather, cease to work normally." "What the hell is wrong with Martin?" Johnson asked. Parker shrugged. "Hell if I know, but then again, I've never known. Didn't know before. Don't know now. She can be so damn sweet that you think you could spend the rest of your life with her, and a minute later you're not sure you could stand her for another microsecond. Loves to love and loves to hate. So, if you're asking for a real answer, you'll have to talk to her psychiatrist if she hasn't already driven him crazy. If I had to guess, I'd say that she's pissed because you caught Spooky before she did. I mean, it's just one more thing that you did that she couldn't do. And then on top of that, you dump her for a job. That would piss any woman off. And then, okay, that's enough. I get the idea, Parker said as Johnson chuckled. Do you think I should go and talk to her? Sure. Can I be one of your pallbearers? Johnson asked. No, I'm being cremated. Then can I carry your urn? So, I guess I won't talk to her. That would be wise. What's wrong with Lindy? Johnson said. When you're out of the equation, she's almost normal. Almost. No. I take that back. I think she defies the term normal. Seems like it. Anyway, Captain, I'd like to interrogate Spooky Skinner now. Sure. We'll talk later. Parker went to the elevator, pushed the button, got in, and reached for the button. Hold the elevator. Parker stuck his hand out to keep the door from closing completely. It began to open again. Thank you. As soon as Martin saw Parker, she stopped. Well, hop in. I'm going to interrogate your friend Spooky, Parker said with a smile. He's not my friend, Martin said defensively. Just kidding. Well, it's not funny. Sorry, Parker said. You said something about interrogating Skinner, she said pleasantly with a smile. Yes, that's where I'm going. I want to talk to him first. I think right, and I will talk to him first, Parker said. Trying to hold back her anger, Martin muffled her anger and forced a gentle tone. This is my case, and I should be able to question him first. I understand, but Wright and I made the arrest, and you're still working the Ashley Barkley case. Lindy went silent until the doors opened. With Parker a few steps behind, she walked directly to Sergeant Riley at the detention center. Wright had just handed his weapon to Sergeant Riley and was leaning against the counter talking to Riley. I'm here to question Mr. Skinner, Martin said. Whoa there, buckaroo, said Parker. I told you that you're not going to question him before we do, or until Captain Johnson gives you permission. In fact, this has been a federal case for weeks, Parker asserted. Riley broke in. Before anyone does anything, you're checking in your weapons. On the counter, please, Riley said as he tapped a spot next to Wright's weapon. They dutifully obeyed, clearing their weapons and setting the clips next to them. Lindy set her gun down with emphasis. Riley put the weapons under the counter and locked the cabinet. Sensing a standoff, Sergeant Riley picked up the phone and dialed the captain. Lindy could contain herself no longer. She turned to Parker. You fucking bastard. This is my case. It has always been my case. Who the hell do you think you are? You walk in here as the big FBI agent and think you could just push us aside. Well, you're wrong. I'm talking to him first. Sergeant, let me into the interrogation room and bring Mr. Skinner to me. Sergeant, don't do it. She has no authority. Sergeant Riley looked back and forth at Parker and Lindy. Then he stepped back. Captain Johnson is on his way down. Let's just wait for him to decide. Lindy fired a hateful stare at Parker, stepped up to him, and swung. The open hand hit his left cheek. He flinched. Well, Detective Martin, I guess you showed me. That's one way to get your point across, Parker said. Wright stuck his arm between Detective Martin and Parker. Hey, Lindy, stop. What the hell is wrong with you? You don't want to do this. Riley said, Jesus, Detective Martin, what's got into you? She pushed against Wright's arm, moving toward Parker. She was getting ready to strike again when Wright stepped in front of her. Parker backed up. Christ, Lindy, calm down. Detective Martin glared at Wright, stepped closer to the counter, and glared at Parker. The elevator doors opened. Out stepped Johnson. Lindy slapped her hand on the counter. Give me my gun. She bellowed. Riley put her weapon and clip on the counter. She picked up the gun with her right hand and the clip with her left. She holstered the gun, still holding the clip. When she turned around, she was face to face with Captain Johnson. She bumped past him, stormed into the elevator, turned, and glared another salvo of hate as the door closed. Okay, what the hell is going on here? The captain demanded. Parker answered calmly, just a little disagreement about who was going to question Skinner first. But it's been resolved. Amicably, Wright added sarcastically. It doesn't look like Detective Martin saw it that way, Captain Johnson said. Really? I couldn't tell. Sometimes it's hard to read her, Parker mocked. I do believe he's correct, Captain. But everything's under control now, Wright said. You two are damn lucky that her gun wasn't loaded. She might have tried to win the argument the hard way. Just try not to aggravate her again. She's walking on the edge, and I don't want her going over it. Try to stay clear of her. I mean, would it have done you any harm to let her question him first? Captain, in her state of mind, she might have pushed the wrong buttons and caused him to clam up. But I think he'll talk to me, Parker asserted. And how do you know that? Asked the captain. I think he's in love with Parker, Wright interjected. Funny, Parker said. He had this weird look in his eyes, and he was spouting biblical text like an evangelist. It was as if he wanted us to know what he had done. Okay, get in there and don't screw this up. We won't. The captain headed to the elevator, and Wright and Parker headed to the interrogation room and waited for Skinner to be brought in.